Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Hey Domingo, how's it going, brother?
Hey, Prateek, it's going pretty good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Before we get started, if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do, any future aspirations, whatever you're comfortable sharing about yourself.
My name is Domingo Ruiz, and I'm from Nicaragua, and I'm 31 years old. Uh, well, uh, I love music. I actually play bass guitar. I've been teaching myself how to play piano a little bit and electric guitar, but bass guitar, it's what I'm passionate about, and I really love music. I have
Any sort of
to.
everyday likes and dislikes that you'd like to add? Just general stuff like do you like doing laundry, dishes? Not like doing those. Yeah, you can add those if you want to.
uh, I mean, I don't like really doing laundry or dishes, but someone has to do it. So
Right,
I just have to. At some point, I'm like, nah, I gotta do it. No one else is gonna do it.
right,
Um,
right, right. The clothes would pile up. Yeah.
yes. I've never been that good at sport, but I like volleyball, and I do a decent job, I think now.
Hmm. Yeah. And one of the ways actually Domingo and I were introduced to each other. I mean, we first met each other at Central Plaza, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and we've also done a few performances together at UCO a few years
Yeah.
back. So yeah, speaking of which, you brought up the topic of music. At what stage do you feel you were really inspired to start learning how to play the bass guitar? Like, how long back was that? And if you want to sort of add your interests in music, like since childhood, you feel free to add that as well.
Uh, well, the thing is, like in my family, uh, at least any of my relatives that are close to me, we we don't have any musical people in my family, um, and just like and so a lot of people that love music that are musicians now, you will have them telling you stories how their parents were playing music all the time and how they were inspired by the parents, but I never had that. And for me, growing up in church, and I also met a lot of like musicians and saw a lot of people. And when you see people like on videos or famous musicians of your favorite band, and I think that's what I got inspired. Especially there's a musician from Colombia. His name is Alex Campos, and when he released like his second album, and my mom got it for me, got a CD. I will play that CD over and over and over again, and just loved it. That I felt kind of inspired. You know, I just imagine myself like on a stage and playing and singing and just being like like this singer from Colombia, Alex Campos, and I kind of like brought that desire. And it's a little bit hard because in Nicaragua you didn't have a lot of places where you could actually learn, or getting a teacher was kind of like super expensive going to music school, and especially for bass guitar you didn't have a lot of people that will teach you that knew how to play bass guitar. Usually you will have a lot of guitar players and piano players, and I knew it was going to be a challenge because I never felt like I was like a prodigy, and I was like
Mhm.
uh, at the time. So it was a combination of several years working hard. And I had a friend that I met in my last year of high school. I went to three different high schools, and in Nicaragua we don't have like junior or middle school. We just have high school, like from seventh grade to 11th grade. and I met this guy that was passionate about music, and I was like 17 year old around that time, and we became good friends because of the music. And actually, he was singing a song, uh, that my favorite like singer, used to sing, Alec Campos, and like I was like, hey, I know that song, I like that song, and we just started this great friendship. And then he was playing acoustic guitar, so and in the school they would let us borrow the guitar like whenever we were in our breaks, and we get the guitar and we'd start singing and playing just like so passionate, just and then he learned how to play bass, and he was like, hey, I can teach you, and then he taught me the basics about it. Then I've finally, like a year or 2 years later, I got a computer, and then I started watching videos on YouTube, and I just went crazy because I have access to so many people, so many resources, things that I didn't have access to before. And I started one of one of the things. It was hard, sometimes I got discouraged. I'm like, oh, I'm not as good as my friend, or I'm not as good as the other people. But I tried to challenge myself, and one of the, I think, first like tunes or songs that I challenged myself was the Pink Panther theme song. And as a kid, I grew up watching the Pink Panther, and just that, like that tune from the song that was ringing in my head. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. And that, and I finally, like, after like a month, I learned how to play it. And the more I learned, the more I enjoy it. Just music became a vital part in my life, because just music can bring you so many feelings. Like it can make you sad, or like it can make you happy. And for me, like, depending on how I'm feeling, I listen to different like styles of music and like different singers. And through music, I have met so many amazing people, amazing musicians, and amazing human beings. And just like it opened the doors to so many possibilities. And that's why I love music. And I love being able to learn from other people, and I learn from other cultures. Like, so many cultures are so different, the way how they see music, the way how music is part of their lives. And
Yeah, irrespective of like where people are from, what do you feel connects people to music? Because you didn't, I'd assume that you didn't necessarily expect a student in your high school to know a song from your famous, or your, I mean, your favorite, excuse me, musician. So for you, like, how do you feel people connect through music?
'cause I think music goes beyond you know uh, our own selfish desires. Sometimes uh, we judge people. Oh, I don't like that person. We don't even know that person, or like, oh, maybe first impressions, we are led by that. But I think music can go past that, and I think that's how, like, I became friends with him. Because for me, he was like a popular guy in school. Like, everybody liked him, but and I never approached this guy. But once I heard, like, hey, he's playing a song I like, and I decided, like, hey, what's your name? Like, dude, I like the music, and like the song that you're playing, and that gave me the courage, like, to go and talk to him, and just connected us, like, because it goes beyond our differences. And you know bring us together in ways that we sometimes don't think are possible.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. You mentioned the fact that you had some challenges while you were like learning how to play the bass guitar. What kept you coming back?
uh I think, like, because it was a deep desire that I have. So it was not the something that, I just want to try it, you know. And I know, and I don't want to put myself down, but there are a lot of things that I cannot do, that I'm not good at. And like, and sometimes, I've never been good at challenging myself all the time to, oh, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try this, or a new thing. But whenever there was something that I really, really, really wanted, like I would, I will do my best, because I was like, if I fail, I know I gave it all. I will have that in mind,
Mm.
that I gave it all, and that I didn't let anything or anyone stop me. Because along the way, I had people that discouraged me. They were like, "Well, it's gonna be really hard learning bass. Like guitar is more common." And actually, somebody told me, if you don't learn guitar first, you cannot learn how to play bass. And I went to those people because I wanted encouragement, and I got the opposite. And but I was like, no, no, I will somehow find the strength to cheer myself up and say, no, keep going, keep going. And even like trying, because actually something that a lot of people even don't even realize, I'm left-handed. So
Mm.
usually you will have to buy a left-handed guitar or bass guitar. But then when I asked someone from a music store back home, hey, how much would it be for a left-handed bass guitar? Well, we'll have to order it from the U.S. and it's gonna be like you know $2,000. I was like, no, that's way out of my budget. And so basically, I had to learn how to play guitar as a right-handed person,
Mm.
and that's how I play now. I just got used to it. So that was another challenge that sometimes I even forget. But uh, some bass player, left-handed bass player, they will just turn it upside down. But I didn't feel comfortable, and I think that was actually one of the biggest challenges, because just going against you know my nature, I would say, just who I am. I'm a left-handed person, and 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 I got frustrated just like anyone else. Sometimes we pretend we're good at pretending like everything is fine, or but sometimes I think it's also good to be honest with yourself and like, hey, I'm not fine, and kind of like see why, and like and just try to get back up the floor, and just like
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's it's very interesting because like you said, the amount of challenges that you had having to play right-handed while you're left-hand dominant. You said something very interesting there about you had to encourage yourself because you went to people for encouragement,
yeah.
but they gave you the total opposite. So for you, when did that sort of realization come to where you felt, okay, I probably need to push myself and encourage myself more than try to seek it from other people around me?
And I think it comes, and probably I don't want to get sentimental. It comes even from growing up, because growing up, I was never like good at a lot of things. Sometimes you have guys that are good at sports and like building things, and I was never that kind of guy. And
Hmm.
my dad is good at hunting, fishing, whatever, anything he will do. And I didn't get that from him. I'm I'm a little bit more like my mom. Um, but and so I was struggle with that. Being confident or knowing that, oh, I'm not good at sports, I'm not good at this. And sometimes you, especially when you go to school. Let's be honest. Like you try to find that group of people where you can be accepted, you can feel part of something, and you can feel that people like you. And I struggle with that a lot. And you know and I think when I was like 17, I came to realize, hey, no matter how hard I tried, no matter if I change entirely who I am, people, you can never please people. um, People are gonna always like need more, ask you for more. It's not never gonna be enough. And that's when I came to that realization, like, hey, even if people don't approve of what I'm doing, even people don't encourage me, even if they are like, hey, you cannot be part of a group, but we don't like you, you're not cool enough. I have to keep going, and I have to surround myself, even if I have less friends, with people that actually want to encourage me, want to help me. And sometimes, I will have to encourage myself most of the time, and even when everyone else is telling me like, hey, stop, or like,
Right, right, right.
or when people are telling, no, you're not gonna be able to do that, they discourage you.
Yeah, yeah. You touch a very important thing there. About you touch on a very important thing, I should say, about like trying to please people and realizing that you can't, because then it's like a never-ending cycle of um, others probably wanting more from you and you wanting validation from it and all that sort of stuff. But I'm just curious to see like how, if like to sort of flip the question and see if we can explore this topic. Do you think trying to please people can be good in any way?
um I don't know, I would say that, I mean, try definitely challenging yourself
Hmm.
to, like, for example, if you are, in school, or you've work, anything that you set yourself to do in life, and you try to do your best. If it's school, so you try to, meet the teacher expectation, that you can get grades, that you participate in class and do well on your assignments, and you're present in the class. But I think if you are just desperately trying to please people so that they like you, that they accept you, I think that will backfire.
Hmm.
Because sometimes, sadly, you never good enough. Like, people always demand more. People always, and you are gonna be in this like endless cycle of like trying to seeking validation. If you don't get that validation, that just affects you, uh, in a way that you're not happy with yourself. In a way that if you don't get that validation, then it's like you feel like you haven't accomplished anything. So I think it's not really good when you become a people pleaser, where you only do what they want, and like it's like you don't have your own judgment. You wait for people to tell you what to do, to tell you what is right, to tell you what they like, and I think you lose yourself, and you don't, then you are not going to be able to do things on your own, and explore your creativity, and I think offer, because everyone has something to offer. But when you are like that, then you live for people, not.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Um, Again, you said something very interesting there about like losing yourself and not doing what you want to do, instead like sort of dancing to the beats that others play for you. For you personally, did it become easier for you to make that distinction, that separation, as you grew up, or was it well, yeah, like did you were you was it easier for you to make that separation once you grew up, I guess, is a better question to ask. Yeah.
It was a little bit much easier, because I think, like, the older you get, and when you go through things, I think you have two choices: either just stay the same, or or you will just complain. Oh, like, this happened to me, and poor me, or you get, on your feet, and learn, and grow, and like, don't, and like, keep going. And I think that the older I get, the more I learn, so the much easier it became, to make that separation. That's, sometimes it's hard, you struggle with those kind of things, like, uh but I think the more experience I have, and the much easier it becomes, or it becomes much easier for me to see it on myself, and like, and kind of be able to stop and stay still and like being able to say think about it and like, hey, I'm doing it again, like, okay.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned something about learning and sort of growing from that. Do you feel as you learn more that there's a lot more to learn?
Yes, I think you know uh I think for me, I missed my 20s because I have way more energy. Uh, but I love my 30s because I have learned so much. There are so many things that I didn't know when I was 20. So many things. I feel like I was so naive. And now that I'm 30, I learned so much more. And I see people that are older than me that they are in a whole different level and a whole different stage of life where there are a lot of things that I don't know. So it's is you never stop learning, because things will always come your way, and life will always throw things at you. So I think it's a never ending, you know, school. Like, it's just like you're gonna always be learning new things.
Mm. Do you feel we sometimes forget that as human beings, that there's a lot more to learn?
I think yes, but sometimes much easier, especially when pride get in your way to just think like, no, I know it all, or no, I don't need to learn, or I know more than anyone else. Like, and I remember someone told me like, once you become a teacher, then you stop learning because you think you know it all. But if you always consider yourself a student, you can even learn something new from someone that doesn't know as much as you do, or you can even learn from someone else's mistakes. But I think we always deal with, our ego, our pride, and think, no, but I don't need to learn anything else. I know it all. I know better than that person. But I think when you decide, like, no, I'm always gonna learn, and I'm gonna have this mentality, like it's just like you grow. You always continue growing as a person. That's why for me, I love I love meeting people from other cultures. And that's, I mean, when I met you, we have so many conversations, and I think we we came to realize that there were a lot of things, even though India is so far from Nicaragua, and like it's just like two different worlds. But at the same time, there were a lot of things that how life worked that um, you know that we have in common, and we just like laugh, and it was like a moment of like, really, like you guys do this, we do this too. And like if I thought like, no, I know it all, like, yeah, I don't need to learn from Prateek, or then I would never have had the chance to experience that and learn and gain more knowledge. And it's the same about music. And then when we perform at UCO, and like I think it would perform like in two or three different events, and we got the chance to even come closer because we thought like we love music and we're from different culture, but I think we have so much to offer to each other and learn from each other.
Yeah, totally, totally, totally. You speaking about that reminded me of the fact that our group was called Honorary Indians because I was the only Indian in the group, and we had Domingos from Nicaragua, of course. We had an American, and we had a Vietnamese guy. So all different people from different parts of the world performing to an Indian song. It's kind of cool in that sense to sort of think
Yeah.
about it. Because, and that's like you mentioned, that's the beauty of music, right? It connects people irrespective of where you're from, what your biases are, what your interests are, and so on, which is really beautiful. But you said again something that I want to touch on in terms of ego and pride and how it sort of affects our ability to learn. Why do you think that is? Like, um, is it more of like a person trying to be the dominant type, or yeah? What's your opinion on that? Like, why do you think ego and pride affects people's ability to learn?
And definitely I'm not I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist or a
No,
counselor.
of course. Of
But and
course.
a lot of the things that I said, that I'm saying, my ideas comes just from my own personal experience. And
Totally.
um I mean, because, and you might disagree, agree with me, but definitely we are selfish, like,
Hmm.
because because I think to be think put others first, think about someone else first, or and put ourselves in a second place. It's a choice we have to, like, decide it ourselves. Like, hey, I see a person that suffering. I go and help that person. But usually, it's much easier to pretend we didn't see anything and just, like, keep going our way, because, like, no, I don't want to do that. And I think, and of course, we hate when people tell us that we're wrong.
Right.
We hate acknowledging that we don't know something. We hate when we feel like we are less than someone. And we don't people as people, we don't like, even when someone is successful. Sometimes you have, like, instead of, like, you know being happy for that person, we are like, oh, it's not me. Like, and I mean, even myself, I found myself when I was younger, like, in this cycle where uh things were not going really well. And this, like, so I came in this state where I will complain, oh, like, life is not treating me well, or like, this is happening to me, everything is going wrong, and this person seems like they have a perfect life. And I would just complain and complain and complain. And I didn't like when people, tell me I was wrong, or, like, I think it just who who we are is in our nature. And I think I don't see anything wrong with trying to be the best, with challenging yourself to give it all. But I don't like having to take someone down to, accomplish that, my dreams. Or, I remember another person that invested in my life, and he will always say this, as a team, you can go faster, you can go farther. And I always took it because we were working with teams and doing, several things. But also in life, if you will have people around you, friends, family, the people, you can learn from those people. So you can just put aside your ego, your pride, your selfishness, and humble yourself and say, I can learn from these people. And being able to say, hey, I'm wrong, like, sorry, just like, because that gives you the chance to learn and grow.
100%. 100%. I totally agree with everything you said. But I'm curious, do you think being selfish can be good? You brought that up in terms of our ego and pride, so I'm curious to know. Is there like some places where being selfish can be good, or is it always kind of a bad thing?
For me, others can disagree. It's not good. For me. It's not a good thing.
Mm.
Because it doesn't lead you in a good direction. Because I think you become more and more numb to everyone else, and to the sufferings of others, to the problems around you. Because even like my own experience, coming from Nicaragua and being here, it just um I don't know. I think I was, like, more exposed to, like, international news and, like, what was going around the world. And I always have a better notion of what's going on. And because there's so many people, like, all over the world, that are suffering, so many things that are going on, that sometimes our problems are way too smaller in comparison to what are suffering. But now being here is, it's a different life, and kind of like you don't have time for that, and like, and you're sometimes become like selfish because you're just thinking about yourself, or oh, I gotta do this tomorrow, or like I have an appointment, or and you have become so like enclosed, and you're just thinking about yourself, and sometimes you don't even care. Like when you hear like, oh, this terrible thing happened in this country, or like this happened to this group of people, like it's like you feel like whatever. You're kind of numb to. For me, it doesn't lead you in a good path, like selfishness. It's just
Hmm.
because you just care about yourself. You think that you're the most important thing in the world, and just
Yeah. No, I see where you're coming from 100%. But yeah, one final question before we go into the word association game. How do you think we can do a better job as humans from your own personal experience? I was just curious how you feel about this. How do you think we can do a better job as humans to connect to one another? Because sometimes it can feel like there's a lot of sort of disconnect. Everybody is just, or at least on the news, it can seem like everybody is just fighting with one another
yeah,
and stuff like that. So, for you
yeah.
personally, how do you think we can connect to one another as humans?
I feel definitely we have to get ourselves out of our comfort zones, you know. And you have people that are introverted, people that are extroverts. As some would struggle more than others, but you have to get yourself out of your comfort zone and go out there. And what I mean going out there, it's just you have to make an effort to get to know someone, to get to know more people, because it's so easy just to ask someone, "Hey, how are you doing?" But in a superficial level, because I don't know if you experienced this when somebody asks you how you doing, and you tell them, but you thought they really wanted to know how you're doing, and you tell them, hey, this is happening, just like you give them the whole scoop, what's going on in your life, and like and and they didn't really want to know, and like you feel guilty now for telling them, and you even apologize, like, oh, I'm sorry for telling you how I was doing, and I think we have to make an effort to really want to get to know someone, and what's going on
Hmm.
in their lives, and get to know them as as a person, and how they are, because sometimes like we have a lot of differences, but it doesn't mean that we cannot be friends with someone, or it doesn't mean that we cannot respect each other, because that's something that I think is missing now. We want to be right, or we judge people based on like appearances, and we don't get to know them deeply.
Totally, totally. I echo everything you said there. Well, thank you so much for answering all these questions, Domingo. We're going to go into the word association game called Bish Bash Bosh, where basically I will give you one word and you have to respond to each word in either three words or three phrases. For those of you who are new around here, who are listening and watching, basically these words um, repeat themselves. I ask every guest the same set of words because they sort of hold a foundational meaning in what this podcast means to me. So you can always catch clips of other guests who've answered these questions on Instagram at Random Relatability as well. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Before we get started, though, do you have any questions, Domingo? Before we go into the round?
No, I'll try to do my best. I don't have any
All right,
questions.
sounds good. Sounds good. All right, let's go for it then. The first word is differences. What are the three things that call out to you when you hear the word differences?
um Differences, let me see. I think I would say a teaching moment, um, a new opportunity to learn things, um, things that can bring us together.
Beautiful. The second word is nuance.
Um, Let me see. That's a little bit more difficult.
It can be anything, anything that's sort of popping into your head at this point.
Can you give me an example? Like, So
Sure. Like in terms of what nuance means, like, it's sort of like that there is gray. It's not all just black and white. So one word that I would use is gray. Just because you see something in front of you doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it is. There's probably a lot more underneath that you don't see,
yeah,
sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah. I would say, like getting out of your bubble, uh,
Mm-hmm.
being intentional, um, making an effort to get to know someone better.
Awesome. The third word is learning.
Learning, I would say humbleness,
Mm-hmm.
uh, a word that would say it's student. Always go with learning,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say being hungry for more.
Awesome. I like that last one. The fourth word is empathy.
You know, I would say putting others, first. Um, I would try to see other people's problems, not just your own problems. And the other one, uh, I would say, you know, try to get out of your comfort zone and explore the world out there.
Nice, nice. The last word for this segment is similarities. What are the three things that call out to you when you hear that word?
Uh, or that it might sound crazy, but people from other countries. And I
Hmm.
say this because again, India and Nicaragua are so different. But once we talked like for an hour or two about this, but we find out we have so many things in common.
Yeah.
Um, you know, celebration, and I say celebration because we can celebrate things that bring us together and things that were similar. And I think acceptance, because like in our similarities, we can accept others and other cultures.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Domingo, for playing on this segment of Bish Bash Bosh. Just two more questions. Well, last one, not really a question, but
Yeah.
the first question, though, how do you relate to people?
Um, I think the way I do it now, and it's something that I think we have been talking about through the whole,
Yeah,
the whole video, and even with some of the words that you gave me, and maybe I was repeating myself over and over again, but I think being intentional and getting to know them well, not just like, hey, how are you, and just like being superficial. I have to push myself to get to know what's going on in their lives. And even if there are things that I don't agree with, things that I don't like, I try to look past that, because then I can see who they are, and also celebrate what makes them who they are. Because if you never get to know someone, it's so easy to judge them. It's so easy to cast them aside, or just too easy to say, "Hey, I don't like this person."
yeah, I'm with you on that. Totally, totally. Um, well, the last question, like I said, is not really a question, but if you have a parting thought, or if you want to share something with everybody who's listening and watching, whatever it may be, the floor is yours.
And I just wanted to encourage people who are listening, just to really try to get to know people from other cultures. I I think in my own experience, it can bring so much more to your life. It can e- even if you're not able to travel to other countries, just the fact that you can meet people from all over the world, people that are sometimes like right next door, and it can change your perspective on how you see that culture, that country, even the perspective how see people, from uh, that don't think the same way you do, and and it can challenge you as well, and you get to know their food, their history, the music, and in my experience, it just been such an amazing experience, such a wonderful experience. So that's one of the things I'll want to encourage them also to try different styles of music from other countries, because people have so much to offer.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did, Domingo. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And yeah, for those of you listening and watching, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.